Hello everyone, welcome to Zagreb, to the recap of the second round of the Tournament of Peace, which is taking place in Zagreb. I'm Grandmaster Jankovic from Croatia, and I will try to explain what happened yesterday in the second round. The main game of that round was game Kožul-Brkić. Kožul is an experienced lion, former European champion, against Ante Brkić, now a second-rated player in Croatia after Ivan Šarić. Brkić is in a great shape, so this game was very interesting. Quite interesting is also that Kožul, who is already close to 60 years old, can fight with younger players. He's having a 26 rating, which is quite high for that age. So Zdenko, great fighter. Let's see what happened. d4, knight f6, c4, e6. Usually Brkić on queen's gambit after knight c3 is playing Ragozin defense, super solid. Before, Brkić was playing mainly some sharp openings, but then he switched to solid openings with black, and with white he's playing e4, trying to win as many games as he can. What is the interesting thing? The interesting thing, I think, from the last 16 games between two of them, Kožul was white in 15 and Brkić only one. This is very interesting, and okay, then it's understandable that Kožul won 8 games, Brkić only 1 game. When you are 15 times white, of course, you have a huge advantage. But anyway, this means that Brkić has some painful experiences with Zdenko, and somehow he's playing below his level. Zdenko opted for Catalan opening, probably now the opening which is not so explored like those semi-Tarrasch openings, Ragozin defense, and so on. g3, d takes c4, bishop g2, sacrifice of the c4 pawn, a6. Okay, now as you can see in the game of Bakro, in Archiev Bakro, black opted there for a closed Catalan opening or defense with black. Here Brkić had a different approach, going for a open position, a6, short castle. Now some players play b5 here in this position, with the point that after knight e5 black goes d5. If white pushes e4, then he's closing the center, but usually people do a4 here, still claiming some advantage. Knight c6, this is something I played before in my career in some games. Knight c3, rook b8. Okay, now there are different ways how to play this line. After e4, black can play b5, where d5 is giving the advantage. Bishop e7 was before the main move, as I remember, and now after d5 some players go to this sort of forced line. Knight e5, a3, this okay, with bishop f5 black secured this d3 square for his knight. Now he's ready to jump, but then white is taking c4, allowing black to take this dark square bishop. Equal position, not much to worry about, but okay, white can also try this position. So this is something I remember that was played before mainly, but now Zdenko goes for interesting idea, bishop f4. If you check his games in the beginning of his career, he was mainly sacrificing his c4 pawn without bothering to recover it. Now in recent days he was entering sometimes main lines of queen's gambit, or in these lines immediately taking back the c4 pawn, but this is somehow, this reminds me of his earlier way of play, where he forgets about the pawn, and that happens actually in the game. Here maybe b5 was more precise immediately, but Brkić went to castle, probably not expecting that Zdenko will give another sacrifice, another pawn. After queen e2, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, rook d1, queen c5. Okay, basically what is the concept? The concept is that white has already sacrificed c pawn, so it's not a big deal to sacrifice another pawn. Actually, that black is 2 pawns up but double pawns, and the point is that white will target this bishop, which cannot be developed since d file is in white control. So this is something, this is the point, actually, the concept of this variation. You can see many similar games. I recall one of the games that was Kramnik Mamedyarov from Berlin Candidates 2018, I would say, or I think 2018, I don't recall, or maybe it was 2017, where Kramnik sacrificed on d4. It was more or less similar. The queen was out, but Mamedyarov managed to survive, but it was very tight. So this immediately reminds me of that game. e5, d5 is controlled by white, so black needs to go to d7, and now again move which is logical, trying to exploit the d file. Rook e8, preparing the knight jump to f8 to control or to defend the king side. Now Zdenko doubles the rook, knight f8, knight e4. What after the game I said to Brkić, to Ante, if this type of position, my opinion, if you are in good shape, you can hold. Not maybe this one, but let's say this opening, this variation, you can hold. Sometimes you can maybe even win. If you are not in a good shape, you can lose easily. And actually, this happened in the game. So Brkić probably lost part of his shape. He's not in a mood to find good moves. 1-2 mistakes, you end up in a passive position, and then you can be crushed, get crushed with some deadly attack. Actually, that happened in the game. So this is my opinion. Maybe if you are good, you feel good, you have good confidence, then you go for this line. If you don't, then better maybe is to stay away. Queen e3. Of course, engines will immediately say that there are better moves for white, but this actually I like. Threatening to exchange the bishop over g5, maybe, and also preparing some sacrifices if black goes for h6 and so on. So I like this move. Queen e3, Brkić goes for queen b6. I think this is the first mistake. This is very common. You take the pawn in the opening, or even 2 pawns, and then somehow you feel the pressure, because of course your opponent needs to have something in return. Usually he has better pieces, better development. So you get the pawn and you want somehow to go out of the passive position. Usually you are making your opponent's attack less deadly with queen's exchanges, so you offer queen's exchange. But this is actually ruining your position. But this is very human, very natural. Here b6 I would prefer, and I think this was important point to immediately try to solve this position. After queen b6, Zdenko could have opted also for queen b6 and knight d6, but okay, he decided queen f3. Then this is of course showing his intention. I want to attack, I want to deliver a checkmate. Knight g6, queen h5. Of course there are many moves now, but I don't want to bother you. I want to show you just how this concept was a winning concept. Of course black engines will maybe survive this position, but for human point of view this is very hard. Bishop queen takes g5, bishop g5, queen g5, h6, queen h5, natural, protecting e pawn, preparing sacrifice. If you take on f4, then you are releasing the tension, but then the bishop might join in. Also these type of motives are on the menu. So probably not easy to give an advice in this position. c5, I think this is okay. The point is probably to return the queen and maybe to control d8, but no enough time for black. Bishop e4 targeting knight, queen c7, and now usually when you have this concept, then all the pieces, if you take a look, all the white pieces are active. No way now to improve the pieces position. Now it's time to sacrifice or to break through, and that's what Zdenko is doing. He sacrificed on h6, g takes. Queen e5 was interesting how it loses. It loses knight, queen takes e5, knight takes, rook d8. Now rook f8 with the idea to survive, but now bishop f4, the pin, f6 protects the bishop, the knight, but then goes bishop h7, a deflection after king f7, another deflection. This one is a really cool one. King must stay connected with the rook. Now takes this, and rook g8, and actually just white is penetrating the position, collecting g pawn, then h pawn will just march and so on, and the pin is still on the board. After bishop h6, ante took, exchange. Now it's pretty obvious that this won't take long. King f8 forced to protect the rook, exchanging, and now queen h5, important move, and you see that black is lacking communication, harmony. Now it's after king f7, Zdenko was better on time, and also his position is winning position here, b5. Now maybe even rook d7 wins, but Zdenko finds the most easiest way, rook d7, and now queen f6 is threatening a checkmate. So rook e7 is not possible. So basically after this move, this is another checkmate. Great game by Zdenko. We will see how will he proceed. Brkic now will be white. He had two black pieces in the first two rounds. Now it's time for him to start pushing with white. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's move on to the game of Bakro Palac. Etienne is fighting a lot. Palac is not a good shape, but if you underestimate Palac in Najdorf, that can backfire because he's really strong in Sicilians and calculating very well. And actually here he played very good game. Palac is known theoretician with strong memory, so Etienne wanted to surprise him with rook g1, complete sideline. Actually, this was played before. I think I saw some games of Tigran Petrosyan, not the world champion, but the Armenian grandmaster, who played this line with white. e5, basically the same ideas are like in f3, g4 English attack. But okay, white can maybe exploit f3 square for his f3 square for his queen. Rook g1, e5, knight b3. Now we have the same position with f3. Here, of course, white showed his card that he wants to go to castle long, and f3 square after g4 he will push. He will use for his queen. h5 stopping, h3 preparing. Bishop e6, all normal move, queen e3, f3, bishop e3, this. Okay, this is all like normal, and now I'm pretty sure Palac had a hard time to decide, was it time to take on c3, because this is probably good, but of course complicated, but this is in the spirit of Najdorf Sicilian. I'm pretty sure that Kasparov would do it. g6, also good move, and actually probably good enough. After knight d5, bishop d5, usually people are taking with the bishop here, and now playing something like, I don't know, this type of move to prepare the exchange of the bishops. But here Palac took with the knight, and after e takes d5, bishop f5, bishop d3, rook d3. Okay, white is a bit better here, but black is solid. But take a look what happened after queen h4, stopping g push, queen e2, f5. This is classical, but now somehow white has some combination and way how he can push. f4 was important, and after king f7, now Etienne made some timid move which left him in a bad position. It was time to take on e5, and after knight e5 forced, probably because of d6 push. After knight e4, bishop d4 was the main motive, since after knight takes queen e6 is just curtains. And after bishop f6, important move g4, exploiting this rook on d3, because after knight d3 this is just bad, white is winning. And after pawn takes, rook g3, and actually black will have hard time to find a way how to survive this position. In this position, Etienne was probably, he couldn't calculate everything. Then he played some safe move, but now Palats played very well. He took the chance. Queen b6, targeting rook g1. Rook must protect the other one. Bishop f6 after g4 took. Bishop h4, preparing also knight f6 stuff and so on. Rook g2, queen b5. There were many good moves at this moment, even e4 push, queen d2, bishop f6, rook g1, protecting. h3 is now attacked, white is protecting the pawn, and now a5. Actually, this position is very bad for white, but okay, Palats was in time trouble, and also somehow when you are not in a good shape, which is thing which is going on now with Palats, somehow you cannot calculate, you are not so confident, you are afraid that in time trouble you will make a mistake. So that's why Palats here offer a draw. But actually, if you turn on the engines are screaming that this is completely winning position for a black. Of course, Etienne happily accepted the draw. Okay, he tried some opening motive. He didn't find the right way to proceed, make something not so good, too timid, and end up in a bad position, completely lost. So draw was good enough for him. Palats wanted to stay safe. Okay, so let's move on. Zelčić in Arkiev was a long game, 85 moves, but actually it looked complicated, but not so much in the end. So we will just go briefly through that game. Bishop e7, and now Zelčić wanted to surprise in Arkiev, and now he took with the bishop on c6, with the point that black already committed himself to knight f6, bishop e7. So he will now transpose to some exchange variation of Ruy Lopez, but actually this is very solid. Knight d4, bishop d6. This is very common in this opening. You place your bishop on d6, which looks like a pawn at the moment, but actually it's supporting, and later it can open. Zelčić took immediately this exchange. Okay, now this position is slightly better for white, but of course not much. a4 was a good move, trying to fix the queenside structure. a4, a5 was a response. Knight d2, transferring the knight now to c4. This. Okay, this is common, this f6, d6. When you have a bishop, then you put the bishop. Okay, now a bit strange decision. Okay, it's of course easier for me to discuss this as a commentator, but during the games you're not sure. Here I'm pretty sure that after rook d1, knight e3, white can have a stable advantage, and it's not easy for black to keep solid here. After knight b6, this made black's life easier. Okay, there is a d6 weakness, but of course black is protecting this very well, and his king is actually very good on e7. Now important move, usually this rerouting the knight. This is interesting topic actually. I was thinking about. You can see some Kramnik's game where he's doing this very well in Queen's Gambit, in Spanish. He's always rerouting his knights, and somehow the position looks not so good, but then he makes this rerouting, and somehow immediately you see, oh, the position is not so good. So he's changing the assessment with those plans. I like this a lot. You see knight on e6 is great. Maybe it can also come to c5, where a4 might be a weakness, or e4. Rook d1, rook d8, g3, knight c5, great rerouting. Now it's time to reroute the rook. Okay, maybe black was thinking about the Bobby Fischer maneuver to put it on b6, but now he decided to move away. b3, rook d7. It seems that this is a passive, but actually black is super solid. Rook d7 is important, that rook is protected in any cases of on e5 moves. f5, g4, this exchanging d5. Now black improved his structure. Now his structure is very compact, and he doesn't have any weakness. Knight g3, rook f8, f5, and this seems both kings were a bit pinned. This seems like a complicated endgame, but actually this was very equal, and you can check the game. Many moves, but actually not changing the assessment too much. Many exchanges now, many moves, but actually this was a drawing position, not much to do, and actually this happened in the game. Everyone is pushing his best pawn, and basically that's it. Now checks. Okay, let's see another game, important game, Bosiocic-Kovalenko. Bosiocic, as I said, in pretty bad shape, lost the first round, but he found his inner strength to fight. Kovalenko, of course, a fighter. He wanted to exploit this with some non-theoretical line. He played knight e7. Usually people, what do? They play knight c6 or queen b6 with the idea bishop d7, bishop b5, exchanging that bad bishop. And this line is probably a good advice for some players who are not familiar with the main lines. This is the easiest to play, this queen b6, bishop d7. Okay, knight e7, knight a3. This is a tricky line, an unexplored line. I like this knight a3. This was the idea, to play on queenside. Now black, you see, he's staying with his knight on b8 to be able to exchange these light square bishops. a3 preparing b4 to take the space. a5, rook b1, bishop a6, change, knight h3. Normal move. Possible was also to come to e2, but then white would close the doors for his queen. Castle. You see, white is playing on kingside, black is playing on queenside. Black managed to exchange his weak bishop, but white has more space. Queen g4. This might be some kind of wrong idea, because after h6, bishop h4, takes b4, knight f4 was the move which Marin was counting on. However, now after g5, knight h5, both players missed a great move, f5. Fantastic move, because if white takes, then knight f6 is not a threat, and black can take on h4. I cannot say 100%. Maybe Kovalenko saw this and he didn't want to go in this line, because white might have some compensation, but actually this is not true. So after bishop is after f5, again knight f6 is just king d8, and after moving the queen and queen f7, this is a huge achievement for black, because he took a space even on king side, not just on queen side. Bishop e7. Now white is better. Now this h5 knight is a monster, and f5 is no longer possible. After long castle, queen f3, this white is much better. Okay, during the game this might be complicated, but as you can see, actually if we make fast forward, Bosicic just took the advantage of his space and weak king side of black, and just collected the pawns. Now black was counting on maybe some counter attack, but white is much faster. He just needs to push his pawn to h5, and now this will bother black a lot, and actually white brought home the bacon quite easily. Exchange, f4, stopping the diagonal, knight g4, pushing the pawns. Okay, there are some problems to solve, but regrouping was fantastic from Marin's side, and actually completely lost position for black. The game Kovalenko will probably try to remember quickly, because he was completely outplayed. As you can see, just two passed pawns without any real counterplay, just few important moves, and basically that's it. And the last game was the game Stevic-Movsesyan. Stevic keeping with his strategy to be solid with white. If you try to outplay me, I will kick your butt, so stay away from me. Everyone is, of course, happy with the draw, not wanting to force with black. So basically, this is super solid position, not much to do. Of course, exchanges, and this was draw by repetition. So we finished with the second round. At the moment, white players are pushing. We will see what will happen if there is a chance that black players also may make some nice wins. Okay, see you next time, and follow the tournament. Bye.